think ready to start. So welcome everybody to the city planning meeting. And I want to again begin by acknowledgement to country. In recognition of the deep history and culture of this place, I wish to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land upon which the city of Hobart was built. I acknowledge the determination and resilience of the Palawa people of Tasmania, who have survived invasion and dispossession and continue to maintain their identity, their culture and rights. I recognize the value of the continuing Aboriginal knowledge and cultural practice and pay my respect to elders past, present and emerging. I want to introduce the elected members who are here today. We have Alderman Mari Zuko, Councillor John Kelly, Alderman Louise Bloomfield, Lord Mayor Anna Reynolds, Dr. Councillor Zelinda Sherlock, and Councillor Bill Harvey, and I'm Mike Dutter. Apologies and leave of absence. We have three: Deputy Lord Mayor, Councillor Helen Bennett, Councillor Ryan Passault, and Councillor Ben Lohberger. And leave of absence is Councillor Will Coates. Thank you very much. Confirmation of minutes, number one. Someone would like to move?
So moved.
Those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Thank you. Number two, consideration of supplementary items. Done. Thank you. Number three, indications of pecuniary and conflict of interest. No. Number four, transfer of agenda items. No. Number five, planning authority items, consideration of items with deputations. We have 611 and also 612. There's no representation, but there will be Paul Johnston, I understand. He's not here, but may come later if there's any questions to be asked and answered. 6, community acting as planning authority. I draw attention. Oh, sorry,
So
deputation. My apologies. Deputation moved. Someone moved. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Number 6, committee acting as planning authority. Just again, remind elected members that the provisions under Rule 25, we act as the planning authority in this capacity. 6.1, applications under the Hobart Interim Planning Scheme. 6.11, 60 Lansdowne Crescent, West Hobart. We have a deputation here. Now, we have the representative is Dr. K, and I understand the son, Dr. Paris, was supposed to come as well, but he's sick. So welcome, do come over, and the mic is there. You have 5 minutes. And when you finish, or before you finish, when you have 30 seconds, I will let you know, and then there'll be questions afterwards.
I'll be brief, I think.
Just speak to the mic if you don't mind.
Can you hear me?
Thank you.
Okay. Now, first of all, I'll just get my little notes, which disappeared. Now, the substance of what I'm about to discuss and my comments is really presented in my summary, but I'll just reiterate a few things for you. My concerns generally exist across issues of privacy and security relating to the access and openness of the vehicle parking and also the planned bin enclosure. The plan raises safety concerns given the proposed change in the car park area will allow regular trespass, reducing privacy and safety on my property. This, together with noise and light spill, will create serious concern for my home and myself. Also, there are issues with suggested storage of garbage bins, which would be a health hazard, a possible health hazard, and certainly an eyesore from my side of the fence. because it won't be contained on that side, and it won't be obscured from my place. Further discussing the car park area, the proposal as it is gives opportunities for cars to literally pull in front of the currently gated fence, which is the boundary between the properties, meaning that there are numerous opportunities to disrupt the lives on our side of the property, the fence. The proposal will unfairly disturb my family's peace of mind, and not only through the aforementioned light spill and noises from the cars, but crucially the area with the new parking points directly at my property's living space and the rooms that we mainly use. I would hope your final decision will fairly consider my opinion, and I haven't any more to say.
Thank you very much. Now, any questions? No questions. So thank you.
So I do have a couple of questions.
Okay.
So, with regard to the rubbish bins, what's your concern there?
Well, the plan, the original plan that I saw is contained on 3 sides, not on the side looking into my place. I noticed on your planning person's proposal, they suggest screening it on all sides, which of course is the answer. That's all.
So is that conditioned?
Is it conditional? Well, I'm suggesting the original plan isn't enough.
We can ask whether it's conditioned later.
Okay.
And just with light spillage, are you suggesting that that'll be from cars, additional cars?
Yes.
Parked on a diagonal angle?
Yes. The property in question is built behind my house on a battle axe block on land that was originally my house before my time, and so you come in on the side and it's at the back, and there's a wire fence. I don't know what you call it. Is it a cyclone fence or like a school fence? A 6-foot tall wire fence between us. So cars, of course, turning that area into a car park. Cars will be swinging in and shining into my home.
So it's an additional 2 cars?
2 cars, yeah, I think.
Behind that hedge will...
The hedge will be gone, moved down, yeah, or gone rather, yeah.
Your property looks to have a lot of vegetation though on the boundary.
No, it doesn't really. It's no, it hasn't really. I've got an apple tree displayed on the wire fence and a vine, and not much else there at the moment, especially with the drought. But no, there's not a lot there.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No? Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
It's my pleasure.
And we have the applicants, Sterling and Joanne Stump. Thank you. You have 5 minutes to share between you two, or just one of you speak, and then it's about 30 seconds left. I'll let you know, and then we have questions afterwards. Thank you.
Sounds good. You can hear me okay? Great. Firstly, I just wanted to say thank you for considering our application. I guess I'll just take this 5 minutes to just try and convey what we're attempting to do with this new dwelling. So the idea of the new dwelling is it's really designed to be low impact. We're using the current footprint of the building, so there's really no new infrastructure with what we're trying to create. It's already a downstairs garage, previous workshop space, and we're essentially not creating a new building per se. It's the footprint, and we're just hoping to fit that out essentially as a new small unit with 1 bedroom, essentially being a new dwelling. There'll really be no change to the street appeal because it is a battle axe block. It will look the same from the street. There is an additional change to the car parking area, and in doing so, we're actually taking a car off the street. That's the plan. At the moment, there's 3 units in the structure, and we have 2 car parks off the street. So I guess just having a little bit more of an efficient design, we're having 4 car parks in total. So 2 will be in their original location, and then 2 more to create that for the 4 little apartments. There's also a lot of local public transport there. I guess one of the main concerns with the council planners was just the property density, and we engaged a town planner through JMG to look at the proposed density, and the proposed density that we have from our data actually shows that the property is not an outlier, which was the main concern. It's consistent with other multiple dwelling properties in the area. The density of our property, the proposed density will be 185 square metres, and the current dwelling density for multi-dwelling properties is 184 square metres. So it's definitely not an outlier from the data that we had through our town planner. And also, there's 20% of properties taking into account single and multiple dwelling that will be of a higher density. I've got some examples, but I don't think we need to go through that, I guess. There's still significant shared outdoor space. We've got fruit trees and veggie boxes and that sort of thing for the tenants, and it's a nice sort of northeasterly aspect, so it's nice and bright and sunny. So I really feel that the green space is a nice area for the tenants. I guess the main aim is to provide a long-term rental accommodation, and I guess I feel in the current, everyone talks about the housing crisis and the rental crisis, and that is essentially the case. We have so many people who have applied for the properties when they've come up for rent, but essentially we have provided long-term rent. We have tenants there that have been there from before we bought the property, and we feel really lucky to have such good tenants in our space. I guess the other thing to bring up is obviously the concerns of our neighbour. We have, I feel, quite a good relationship with Kay, and it is not our intention to affect her privacy, and we would absolutely be willing to, at the moment there's this old sort of chain link fence that's there, and it's just got vegetation growing on it, and our intention is not to disturb her privacy. Really, it's an additional car park in that sort of area, but we're absolutely willing to work with her to ensure that she feels that the area is quite private. Essentially, it's just an extra dwelling with 1 bedroom, so it's there's already 3 little units there. That is our intention, to work with Kay, not against her at all, and we've discussed this on the phone and that sort of thing. So I think that's probably all that we had.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Any questions? Lord Mayor.
Of course.
So the conditions that are in the approval, are you comfortable with all of those conditions?
Yeah, absolutely. I believe.
So, pardon me for understanding. There's some recommendations from the planner. So they're not conditional because the planner's recommendation to council hasn't gone through. So I'm not sure if they are conditions or not.
The director.
Through you, Chair, perhaps if I can assist, Lord Mayor, this application is recommended for refusal, so the report that's on the agenda doesn't contain conditions, but I have provided conditions to elected members today, given that I was requested to do so. So the applicant hasn't had an opportunity to review those. They're reasonably straightforward and, yep. Screening for the bins and vegetation along the boundary.
In vegetation, yeah, okay.
Yeah, our current planning wouldn't involve, current constructions wouldn't involve removing the vegetation on the boundary. It's a hedge that's wholly and solely within our property, that it sits in about the middle of the car park, and so that would be replaced by a screen that's a little further back down the axe handle of the battle axe block. Yeah.
Any other questions? No? Thank you very much. You can
Thank you.
take
Thanks.
your seat back. Thank you. Yeah. Councillor Shaw.
Hi, thank you very much, Chair. I was just referring to the email that was sent and just the conditions. It may provide a little bit of relief for Dr. Butfield just with regards to what she had discussed regarding the bins the stormwater as well, and then the parking. We've all received that email, and so if it does, if it does fail today, I would like to put forward a foreshadowed motion for approval based on the density. I think that is in line if we do that, but that's just if we're having a discussion about it, that's just my thoughts.
Well, through you, Chair, or to you, Chair, I'm happy to move an alternative motion that we approve this tonight based on the conditions that we've received by email from the Director. I don't see I know that it's recommended for refusal based on the density, but that's really the only reason for refusal. And I don't see the density being an issue because it's using existing space beneath the house to create another unit. So I'm comfortable that we should park the recommendation for refusal, and I'm happy to move a recommendation for approval and test the council to see whether people agree with me.
Thank you. Okay, that's been moved.
I wouldn't mind just hearing from the Director about, because we haven't really heard the concerns about the recommendation, a recommendation for approval.
Through you, Chair, the key difference between the Council Planning Officer's assessment and the applicant's assessment is on the density. So we are concerned that the size of this property doesn't support having this extra dwelling. Having said that, as the applicant has mentioned, they did have a planner to support their position and has provided details which would support the density of the proposal. So if elected members were minded to essentially go with that planner's assessment, then that's open to the council.
Through you, Chair, and just to emphasise that the extra density is within the existing building. It's just changing the use of the basement or the ground floor from garage storage to additional unit.
Councillor Kelly.
Through you, Chair, to the Director, just so I've got the definition of density correct, it's one thing to have the density of the building. The other thing is to have a density situation where it brings more human beings in and more cars and parking and rubbish and all that. Am I right in saying that this definition of density is defined as I'm describing it? Are you concerned that is the concern about the density more, as I say, with the activity that comes with what happens in that structure?
Through you, Chair. The other elements, for example, car parking, are separately assessed. So the density, it does feel like a little bit of a technical requirement, if I'm honest, about this one, given that the proposal is within the existing footprint. Having said that, we need to be cautious with our assessments. We do all of our assessments consistently and in line with tribunal decisions. And we're not satisfied that what's proposed meets those tests. But I do concede that it is an area where different matters can be taken into account by different planners, and as is the case with the applicant's planner, they've taken a slightly different view of the assessment and reached a different conclusion.
Councillor Klein, any other comment? Do you want to follow up or anything?
So I still can't quite crystallise in my mind that why as council's planner the issues related to that density thing. Is it because of the human activity? I mean, I can't quite understand that.
No, through you, Chair, that I'm not 100% sure of the method that the applicant's planner has used for the assessment of density, but the key differences seem to be if some lots will have a primary house and then an ancillary dwelling, and we would count that as one. So it is possible that the applicant has counted that as two on a particular site. For strata assessment of stratas, we have included common property in our assessments. It is possible that the applicant's planner did not do that. And it is possible that the planner's development has relied on development potential rather than existing development. It's a little bit hard for us to, and I certainly don't want this to delve into a spreadsheet versus spreadsheet situation, but I guess we have assessed this in line with council. We can generate quite specific reports from our GIS system in terms of plot sizes, and we have records like our rates system, which clarifies the status of various dwellings. So the applicant doesn't necessarily have all that detail at hand. There is some digging that they can do through the list, the online Land Titles Office system, but it might just have been a little bit more of a challenge for them to have everything match up. So I do concede that there's some scope for differences of approach.
Lord Mayor.
And I'm just wondering, with the conditions that you've approved now, that you've provided now, are you comfortable with the, the 4 car parks being sort of in that location, and that there's the requirement to put in new screening vegetation and that sort of thing will, I guess, reduce some of the concerns of the representors?
Through you, Chair. Yes, I'm satisfied with the location of the car parks. That satisfies our development engineering team. In terms of the vegetation that's proposed along the boundary, that is actually proposed by our heritage team to ensure that the property, the vegetation is in line with surrounding heritage properties. So that would have the added bonus, I guess, of providing some protection to the neighbouring property, although that's not the driving factor from our point of view as to why you would put vegetation in that spot.
So that's putting in new vegetation, it's recognising the hedge will go? Or is it suggesting the hedge stays?
My understanding is that the hedge is on the neighbouring property. I could be wrong about that though, but there's certainly a proposal for new vegetation to be along the boundary. It is possible as well, sorry, Chair, if there was some sort of fence that could provide some protection, but as I've advised the committee previously, boundary fences are not something that falls within the remit of the Planning Committee.
Thank you. Councillor Shaw.
Yeah, sorry. So just one more thing. Just at the outset, as I spoke, I said, if considering the conditions that you've sent us, I would be happy to approve it, and just in line with what Councillor Harvey has said as well. I do also just wanted to ask, did want to ask a question. We received an email as well from the applicant just with regards to a density study that they had that was outlined in the Payne Tribunal decision relating to the multi-dwelling properties. I was just wondering how that differed from, just with regards to that particular tribunal decision itself, and why our staff came up with something different, because with like 185 square metres with regards to that decision.
Through you, Chair, the Payne decision, as I understand it, and that is referred to in paragraph 6.7.8 of our report, talks about what is the area that we need to consider. I note that the applicant's planner has used 2 different areas. We've landed on one area. Again, this is an area that an issue where there can be some different interpretations of what is the appropriate area to use as the comparison properties. So there is some greyness, I guess, in terms of what is used for the assessment. Not ideal, but we've done our best to be consistent with our previous assessments, but the applicant has taken a different approach.
Alderman Marty Izuko.
Look, I've got to say, I think the words that have just been stated by our esteemed director, it's greyness. As a person that's been advocating increasing density in certain situations for over 20 years so we get more dwellings in the city of Hobart, I firmly believe this actually meets that criteria in this sense. Internal alterations to the ground floor of an existing multiple dwelling building to remove the undercover car parking and 1 storage area and replace these with additional dwellings, resulting in 4 multiple dwellings on the building. We have a massive problem with housing across the country. When we are dealing with a dwelling that all it's doing is replacing a dirty old garage or any storage area into a dwelling, which reflects on what I've been pushing for over 20 years in increased density, does not require any more building other than internal redevelopment of the structure, I think meets what I've been pushing for years. And this is one of the things that this council should start embracing more and more, in the sense of looking at its density. And I've always said that it's density in certain situations. This is density in certain situations. It also, where we look at 1.3.1, where it says general residential zone, the proposal is for a residential dwelling. It's not for a commercial purpose. So, irrespective of whether the parking and access code is met or not, I really don't care. Irrespective of whether the historic heritage code is met, I really don't care. I think this is actually meeting what I've been pushing for a number of years, in the sense of increasing density so we get more dwellings, more apartments, more housing for the city. It's not a total impost on the site, as it is actually internal works that are being conducted on an existing building, and it's converting, I better not use the word SHITTY, garage into a dwelling. I think that's a bonus for the city, and I got to say, I totally agree on the director's comments. This is a grey area.
Anyone else? Let me just make a few points from the readings that I've done. Now, under the planning rules that was used, clause 10.4.1a and P1, the performance criteria, the staff have refused this. This is the reasoning. It's based on that particular clause. So it has failed to satisfy the acceptable solution of 10.4.1a and also the performance criteria. So that's failed. Now, the acceptable solution has failed. We now look at the performance criteria, and the performance criteria in 6.7.4 is very clear. It says if the development will not exceed the capacity of infrastructure service, and A is compatible with the density existing development on the established properties in the area. Now, if you take the staff argument, then we do agree with them that they have a point to make. However, that is not the only point that we're going to take into consideration. It is very clear. It says, if it said and, it would have been different. But it says here, A is compatible with the density of the existing development in the established properties in the area, or, which is an alternative, now we look at B. So under A, it has failed again. Now we look at B. B says it provides for significant social and community benefit and is wholly within A1, 2, and it says distance of walking, etc. So if you look at now, acceptable solution failed, performance criteria A has failed because of density. Now we look at B, and B is very clear that it provides significant social and community benefit. The question we ask is this: what is the definition of social benefits, and what is the definition of community benefit? It is still unclear. Their argument that is used is that typically, but there is no arguments presented logically or cases that convinces me that we have not satisfied B. So therefore, I am inclined, under the rules under which we are testing this application, that I think it, in fact, has passed and satisfies. So therefore, under the rule, I am convinced, not because we're looking at factors of density or shortage of housing, etc. My view is based on the rule itself, and I think the rule has been satisfied under B. Thank you very much. I will now put that to vote. All those in favour?
Chair,
Sorry, my apologies.
perhaps I can just jump in there. I would like to give the committee very firm advice that it's my view that 10.4.1P1B is not satisfied. To date, the tribunal has only supported social housing projects to satisfy that criteria, and this clearly doesn't fall within that bucket, given that it's private development. So if elected members, it would be good for the motion to be clarified whether it's A or B. I could understand if members wanted to depart on A, but my strong view is that there is not a basis to support this application on B.
Yeah, just as a response to that, I still have not found a clear definition of significant social or community benefit. And I think that is, a debatable area. That's the point I'm making. Councillor Schiller?
Yeah, sorry. Just in line with what the Director has said, and as I'd stated previously, if we were to approve it, I would go for that clause 10.4.1P1A.
Yeah.
And I think I'll be moving that for that it be approved on that.
Thank you.
So you want to amend it, or hang on, what page are you on?
The recommendation, that was the advice that we were given.
So I have a question through you to the Director.
Where is it?
Does the council have discretion on this particular matter?
Through you, Chair, yes, it's discretionary in that it's you're assessing under P1.
Okay, so all I'm getting at is I'm using my discretion. Thank
Under P1A,
you.
there is a basis to
That's
form
all
a
I'm doing.
different view.
P1A, thank you.
Okay.
Can I just make the... I'm totally happy to do that, but I do think that long-term private tenancies, that are potentially more affordable for small units in an area like West Hobart, that actually there is social benefit in that. I mean, even though it's not a social housing project, if as the applicants say they do want to keep the focus on long-term tenancies, not short stay, which I guess we can't hold them to, but I hope they do. That these days, I think even private rentals with long-term tenancies are a social benefit, but that's probably another debate for the tribunal one day. But that's just a side point, given we're actually going with the sort of density side of things. So.
Any other comments? Anyone else? I'll put that motion. Councillor Kelly.
Yeah, look, very, very grey area for me, this. I don't agree that, it's a garage, so therefore it's a structure there, so therefore what's the problem with converting it into accommodation? If we converted every garage in Hobart into accommodation, well, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I don't think it's a good, logical, rational argument to justify turning a garage into accommodation. What's the problem with that? I struggle, and I'm going to take the officer's advice on this, is to, I think this densification thing is more than just the building densification. It does involve, as the tribunal has outlaid, that it's more than just the structure, it's all the activity, everything else that happens with that. So unfortunately, in this particular instance here, I don't think it's consistent with the area, which is clearly explained by our planning officers, and we cannot support this on this occasion. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I put the motion. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against?
Just one moment, I just want to get this clear. Are we voting on the amended motion, or are we voting on...
Okay, can we just clarify that?
Yes,
Can you,
because
one more time?
Because I believe that the first motion is always...
10.4.1P1B is strong advice that...
We go with A.
Go with the first one.
A.
A. I will amend it to A.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
So it's approval with that, with the conditions.
Yeah.
But also
Approval with A with conditions.
That's right.
Thank you. Just want to make sure I got it right.
Got it.
Everybody clear? We're voting on that. All right?
So is that, through you, Chair, that's, officers support that?
No.
You will be voting no.
No, they don't. So I'd be voting no. This is
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So those, everybody clear with that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I put that motion now. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? All right. So hence, for those in favour?
Lord Mayor, Councillor Sherlock, Councillor Harvey and Councillor Dunno.
Against?
Against.
It's alarming time at the top.
Okay, carried. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Appreciate it. If you want to leave, you can, or you can sit and... All right, 6.1.2.
Move.
All right. We moved. Paul Johnston, is it? All right, okay. So Paul is here with us, and he will be available to answer any questions if required. So there's no representative.
I got no questions.
Anyone, any questions?
So Paul's would be for the applicant. I think
yeah.
he's come along, so we should probably hear what he's got to say.
Yeah.
That density clause needs to be rewritten. It's terrible. Absolutely terrible.
So you agree with me, do you?
Well, there's no understanding of intent. What is the clause trying to achieve?
Precisely my point.
And so it's left up to technicalities associated with debates from different planners over how to apply it. You need to understand the intent. Understand how you should apply it. So it's just something I keep on confronting.
Talk about Credland Street.
6.1.2.
Yeah, I was just here to follow up with any questions because I know that you understand there's it's a new building in Hobart, so it's a new build there for probably over a century. And the nature of that is the fact that the site is very difficult to build upon. It's part of the old Chesterland estate, across St George's Hill, and it's the leftover place as a result because of its issues of access, issues to do with our clients have been working on it considerably.
Can you speak to the microphone, please? Just speak to the microphone.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we've been working for some time with our clients in terms of a path forward, and that means that we've detached the garage structure from the house, and that allows the house to actually sit quite down the slope, which means that there's all the complexities associated with access. We've effectively got 3 stories of connection between street level and house level, and I think that response has enabled that the building sits below the brow of the hill. So obviously the garage is on street level. There's no way around that, unfortunately. But the response has been very much in terms of maintaining quite a low profile. So it is interesting that is one of the main issues that the representatives have brought to your consideration, because we understand that that's a circumstance, is that those buildings from the 1880s have had that vantage point for a considerable period because of the difficulties of developing that site. So I think we've provided a responsible way of approaching the development of that title, and the planners have supported that in referring to it as a well-performing proposal. So the representatives, I understand, are reacting to a circumstance where you do have a new structure within a circumstance where there hasn't been one at all before in Battery Point.
Any other question, anyone?
Just around the whole question of views, and I mean, how obstructive do you think it will be? I mean, we know that views aren't protected, but I mean, will it be very disruptive, or is it just a marginal obstruction?
Well, it's minimised, and it's also minimised if you're looking at the site plan by the accumulation of easements that we've had to straddle in order to get a house in place. So the garaged area with a workshop that facilitates an internal stair is taking up a proportion of that part of the site that fronts onto the right-of-way in its minimum frontage. That's kept to a very low profile in that respect. So we've done everything that we can to minimise whatever disturbance there might be associated with that. And I think that if, you know, in reality, the only other way you could do it is to effectively not have a garage and just have a car space on its open. But the fact is that we've also got that space as an entry to the house, so that you can actually gain entry to the house via the garage to actually get into the lower level. So I think when you apply a certain reason associated to a typical dwelling, I think we've done pretty much well all that's possible to do that.
Any other questions? Councillor Harvey.
Paul, in other circumstances, if you decided not to have a garage there, you could have built the house there anyway. Section of the house.
We could have built 2 stories, so the house could have been elevated in that respect. We could have built 2 stories onto the frontage, because the uniqueness of this site is that it doesn't have a frontage, no street frontage. So there's no effectively setback associated with a street frontage. And that's just by the nature of the subdivision that's the case. That'd be a lot simpler to do that. We've got real complications in terms of construction, but that was not the chosen way of doing it. And I think part of the fact is that our clients are interested in living in the future into a place where they're not created adverse relationships. So I think that, yes, there's been some level of disappointment, but in reality, I think that in any circumstance, building on that site would create the same circumstance. I think we've minimised it to that degree.
Councillor Kelly.
No questions.
Do you have a question?
Shall we?
Do you have a question?
No, I don't. No, not Mr. Johnson, no.
I don't have questions, no. That's fine.
I was just going to make comment.
Forget the questions.
Yeah.
Look, I think it's an excellent response to this land, which is one of the last blocks in this area, in one of the oldest established areas in Tasmania, and I think it's gone a long way to tick so many boxes that will help with a sensitive development on there. And as the architect said, it could have gone a lot higher. And no matter what's going to go on this block, it's going to always rattle people's cages, I guess. But this, I think, is a very responsible submission for what can be done on here. So I fully support this application.
Thank you. Thank you for your time and responding to those questions. You can go back now. Thank you very much. Now, do I understand, Alderman Zuko, that you have moved this already, the recommendation? Yeah? Okay. This has already been moved. Now, anyone wants to speak to this? No? Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? It's carried unanimously. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you very much. 7.1 Delegated Decision Report. Moved.
Can I ask about, there's no numbers there, 13 to 17 Castray Esplanade? So it's just an additional, because that's come to us a few times for various things, I think. And what's this development?
Through you, Chair, Councillor Harvey, that came last fortnight, but unfortunately we didn't have a quorum because Councillor Lohberger had a conflict, and so it was deferred to come to this meeting, but the applicant didn't grant an extension of time.
Okay, yep.
The development was the penthouse on top of the...
I just looked at the wrong building on the Esplanade there, so I've got it. Thank you.
Any other questions? Right, moved that it be received and noted. All in favour?
Aye.
Carried unanimously. Playing 7.2. Someone move?
Moved.
Moved. Councillor Sherlock.
Any interesting
questions,
developments?
comments?
Through you, Chair, not particularly. There are two items there, number 3 and number 14, which are the two items that will be coming next round. So number 3 is for 1 Pavia Street, which is a front fence that's too high from a planning point of view, so it's recommended for refusal. And number 14 is a fairly innocuous proposal on council land at the boat ramp adjacent to the Royal Yacht Club down on Murrayville Esplanade.
Is that number 3 a fence that's already been built?
Through you, Chair, I don't think so, but I'm not 100% sure, but I don't think so.
And the number 15, Education Centre, where's that one?
Through you, Chair, that is a new building for kindy and prep for Mount Carmel. They've bought that building at 369 Sandy Bay Road, which adjoins their larger property, and they'll do the building work and then adhere the title to their bigger property.
And when's the, so the number 17, that's not, so it's 1 unit, not 5 units going for visitor accommodation?
Yeah, that's correct.
Oh, okay.
Lord Mayor, it's just unit 6 at 1 to 5, yep.
And is Smith Street, that one that was coming to us with all of them all together, is that coming to us in bits and pieces now?
I did, through you, Chair, I did notice that there was at item 8, no, sorry. So item 8 is 3 Smith Street, but that's way down the other end of Smith Street, so that's not part of it.
Okay.
But I think in the delegated decisions, which we've been through, there was one for 45 Smith Street, which was one of them, but I think that's only the second one of that group of 6 that we've had. So that, I think that was approved with no representations received.
Any other?
And the development on top of St Vincent de Paul, when's that one coming? Oh, when's that? Is that one completed its advertising?
Through you, Chair, is that the 212 Argyle Street development? There was a technical issue with that particular application with respect to a property that's included in the development site, but the applicant hadn't provided the certificate of title. So we're working with them to get the right title documents. It'll then be re-advertised and will come to committee sometime after that advertising period.
Would that necessarily come to us or not necessarily?
Through you, Chair, it will come to you as a major development application, yes.
Any other questions? No, thank you. Questions without notice. Put that forward, please, for votes. Thank you. All in favour?
Aye.
Yes. Thank you. Question number 8, questions without notice. Any questions?
Yes.
Okay, Councillor Harvey.
Can a response to amending the density clause in the planning scheme be provided to show more certainty or clarity? So more certainty to applications / decisions such as 60 Lansdowne Crescent. Can someone finish that sentence for me? Be established, something like that.
Be reviewed.
Be reviewed, okay. All right, that's a really crap sentence, but...
Through you, Chair, I'll take that one on notice.
Okay, take on notice.
To you, and you can, and part 2 of that is please edit this question to make it look more sensible.
Yeah, I'd appreciate...
Lord Mayor and then Councillor Kelly. Lord.
Can we get some advice about when we can expect to see the expanded development started at Cornelian Bay that we approved a couple of years ago?
Through you, Chair, that has all the approvals it needs. It was my understanding that they had started first on the car park, which is actually on the other side of I think it's Selfs Point Road, and then they will start building the building proper. So,
so as you understand, it's got its building approval and it's been funded,
yes,
and it
yes.
is going to happen.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, good.
And there is some media planned with you, as I understand.
What was that?
I had understood that our communications team had spoken to you about doing some media with that item, but perhaps not yet.
Councillor Kelly.
Regarding the density situation, I'd appreciate probably a little bit more of information on that so I can get my head around that too. And no doubt we're going to get a lot more of this sort of stuff coming through, I think, in the future. So I think it'd be prudent if we could probably get more of a 101 on that. Is that something that could be possible?
Your question's worse than mine.
Through you, Chair, I'll take that on notice.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I guess it's sort of related. Would the conversion of a large Californian bungalow-style home into a sort of duplex or a triplex of apartments, would that require a planning permit, or would it be allowed under the planning scheme, and simple, or would it be not?
Through you, Chair, of course it would depend where that property was and the specific, how that property was zoned, and the other specific provisions that applied. It's too difficult to provide concrete advice that would apply throughout the municipality.
Can I maybe add something, if that's okay? Density is, in the planning scheme, is really just an assessment of the number of dwellings divided by the site area to give you the permitted number of dwellings for that particular site. And it's not really about how many bedrooms might be in there, or how many people might be there, or how many cars come. It's a really rudimentary tool to try and work out what the right number of dwellings should be on any particular site. And when you're comparing the density in the surrounding area, the idea is really to get an understanding of what that density is for whatever the surrounding area might be. So yeah, I just thought it was worth clarifying what the definition, I guess, of density is, that it's really just a calculation of the site area divided by the number of dwellings. And as the Director indicated in her response during the meeting, there might be a number of different ways that planners might go about doing that, which has obviously led to some discrepancies between what we found in our assessment compared to what the planner for the applicant in 60 Lansdowne found.
For you, Chair,
follow-up. Yeah,
No
thank you.
discussion on questions?
A question. You have a question? Yeah.
question, can a garage be considered as part of that density? Is to convert into accommodation? Is that
Through you, Chair, yes.
four-post garage with just some line on top of it? That's part of the density?
Through you, Chair, whenever you're converting something that isn't a dwelling into a dwelling, whether it's a single dwelling into 3 or a garage into a new dwelling, you need to do an assessment of whether it meets the density, because it's a new dwelling on the site.
Even if it's in the existing dwelling?
Lord Mayor?
If the council wanted to encourage the conversion of large single homes into multiple apartments, what steps would it need to take?
Through you, Chair, to answer that question properly, I'd need to understand the provisions of the Tasmanian Planning Scheme, and I'm not familiar enough with those. It may be that things are more flexible under there, but I'd have to take that one on notice to give you proper guidance.
Alderman Zuko?
No, I've got no questions.
No. Any other questions? No? Okay, thank you. Number 9, someone would like to move?
Move.
Move. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you.